gonna be? What's it gonna be? DK's making a snack today. Shove it right into your mouth. DK's making a snack today. What's it gonna be? Is he making it for me? DK's making a snack today. It's time for tactical snacking with DK. What's it gonna be? DK's making a snack today. Shove it right into your mouth. Is he making it for me? DK's making a snack today. It's time for tactical snacking with Decay.
Howdy, folks. So, dogs are currently outside, but as soon as they come in, I'll just go over and close the sliding glass door, and we'll be good to go there. But welcome, everybody. Good to see everyone here. AJ, Lumpy Pickle in the house, Mr. G Money, who had his first successful sous vide experience today. Very, very happy about that. Okay, good. Audio is coming through. Excellent. Yeah, I thought I unmuted it because I set up a button specifically to mute it. So then that way, you know, I don't have any errant weird sounds. You're getting an echo? Huh. You know what? Let's try that. Is that any better? There shouldn't be any other sound source other than the music and the mic. Okay, so it's just the desktop audio. Thankfully, I set up a mute button for that too. So, woo! Hooray for that. It's been an interesting couple of days, but it's been a good couple of days. And figured, you know what, we need to make some taco salad all up in here. Taco salad is kind of a staple in our home. It's quick, it's pretty dang easy, and I was in need of mixing up some more taco seasoning anyways, and so I figured, hey, you know what, might as well make some up here on stream. Yeah, Lumpy Pickle got himself a little beat up. The computers, was it the computers or was it the coffee table that decided to try to bite you in the shin? Because that looked excessively painful. Yeah, no, shin wounds are. Oh, it was the speaker. Oh, okay, that's right. It was the speaker because you were setting up your new TV and everything. But yeah, so. What we're going to be making today is a couple of things to put together for this taco salad. We'll be making a pico de gallo to go on there, which we'll be making first because I want to let it marinate for as long as possible because I'm going to be using some of the juice from it to mix up the dressing for the salad, which is going to be like a cilantro lime ranch dressing, which we're going to make effectively from scratch. There is one thing that we're going to be using that kind of makes things a little bit easier. So we got to take care of that. Oh, Jane's back. Hi, Jane. The little girl come in. I don't want to leave her out there all alone. Vera. Where's the little girl? There she is. Okay, good. Dogs are in. Good dogs. Okay. Doggos have been treated and things are good to go. Hey, what's up, Kilt Boy? Hey, Night Songs, welcome. So, we got the pico that we gotta make. We got the taco seasoning that we have to make, which we'll do after we finish the pico. Then that way we can get the meat going since that's gonna take the longest. Now, when it comes to the meat, I'm going to do something that could shock you, but just have a little faith in your boy that I got your back and it's all going to work out. Just, you got to trust me on this. Then we got to take care of the dressing, which is that kind of cilantro lime ranch that we were talking about. And then lastly, it's just going to be chopping up the lettuce and shredding the cheese. And I've got some tortilla chips that will go in there, and then once everything's done, we'll put it together. But this is a really, really common dinner in our home. I would say easily Sometimes we'll have it on a weekly basis, sometimes we'll have it on a bi-weekly basis, but it just kind of depends on, you know, what we're feeling at the time. But it comes together quickly, so no big deal. All right, so that being the case, for the pico, we're going to be putting together, chopping up some tomatoes. We're going to be chopping up some red onion. We're going to be putting cilantro in there. We're going to be juicing some limes. And then we're going to hit it with a bit of salt. Now, the salt that I'm using, if you remember from Monday's stream with the steak, I put a kombu salt on the steak. Well, I mixed up a larger batch, but a slightly different ratio. And I'm gonna use this as the salt for everything I'm gonna make today. I'm not quite ready to talk about the recipe for this yet, only because I'm still kind of testing it out to see what I think. But as soon as it's ready to go, I will absolutely share it with you guys so you can make it yourself. But I'm excited, and I think this will be really, really good. For the pico, there is one ingredient that is going to be going, well, actually there's two ingredients, but one ingredient that's definitely going to be going into three separate things is cilantro. And the cilantro is going to be going into the pico, it's going to be going into the dressing, and we're also going to have some black beans with it. And for the beans, yes, that is correct, Killboy. Decay is what I generally go by, IRL. So yeah, Decay is just fine. Lumpy Pickle, as for buying powdered kombu, I have not seen it available that way. I usually break it up and then throw it into either my coffee grinder, aka spice grinder, which I will be using today. I'm gonna have to actually repair this little dealie on here because it's decided it likes to come off now. I'll either grind it up in that, or it is over here. Like, I thought it was on the drain board because I used it earlier today. It's the dry carafe for my Vitamix. I have one that's a wet, and then this one has a dry blade in it, so you can say turn things like wheat, grains, whatever. You can actually kind of turn it into flour this way. And I use this if I'm doing usually larger quantities, and I use the coffee / spice grinder if I'm just doing smaller quantities. So, hey, Hazelnuts, welcome, welcome. Okay. So, since I'm going to be doing cilantro for three different things, I'm going to take care of that first. And I'm actually, instead of just taking my time and kind of cutting it up with a knife, I'm going to use my little mini prep attachment that you just put on the immersion blender motor for to make really quick work of it. Because I'm not concerned about, precise cuts on this. I will use my knife, however, to kind of break it down just a little bit. So then that way it's not having to work quite as much, and it's not going to take anywhere near as long. Now, I've already washed this, and kind of like I've talked about previously, cilantro stems also have a heck of a lot of flavor in them, and they got a nice crunch, and so I don't discard them. I actually use them. I just don't, waste not, want not sort of thing. There's a couple of big old stems which we'll trim up. But I'm just going to take the ends off of some of these, because it'll be, some of them are a little bit, browned. I want to say this bunch I think I've had for, I don't know, maybe a week. So I just want to trim it up a little bit. Alright, and then afterwards I will scoop out what I want to hang on to for the for the dressing as well as the beans. So let's get rid of those little bits. How's everyone's day been going so far? Hey, Rooster, welcome, welcome. So I'm just gonna run my knife through here just real quick, just to kind of break it down a little bit. So in that way, I'm not dealing with large stems in this little attachment. Alright. Beautiful. Alright. Let's put this on. Alright, that's all locked in. Make sure it's plugged in the correct way. Let's turn it to about 4. And all I'm going to do is pulse it. It's looking pretty good. Alright, we've got still got some somewhat larger pieces of stem, so I can do it a little bit more. Alright, that's looking pretty good. Alright, so I'm putting my Pico in. This is a glassware container, which I'm just using for this particular thing. And so, let's see. I'm going to say pretty generous spoonful. Yeah, that should do it for Pico. And then put the rest, I'll split the rest actually. I'm going to put most of this in here for the dressing. But then I'm going to, the last of it I'm going to hang on to for the beans, which I'm going to be having black beans. Just because we really like black beans here. Got nothing against pinto beans. I will gladly eat a pinto bean. For taco salad, generally though, we tend to prefer the black beans. We also will put corn in it. So we'll be heating that up a little later too. So I'm not too worried about washing this out at the moment, because the next thing that I need to chop up that's actually going to go into the dressing is parsley. And so I figured, you know what, I've got this out, I might as well use it. And since both cilantro and parsley are going into the dressing, there's no reason to rinse it out yet. Parsley, I will pick the leaves from generally. I mean, the smaller stems, go ahead and hang on to. I've washed these earlier, just by the way. So in that way, it was a little bit quicker. But the smaller stems are fine. It's the big, thick, woody ones that not a huge fan of. Cilantro stems, like I said, tend to be thinner and a lot more tender. And so that's why I have zero issue eating those, because there's a ton of flavors. How do you like that lurk message? That was a fun one. And then after I get the parsley in here, I'm gonna kind of rough chop a green onion and run it at the same time as the parsley here, since it's also going to be going into the dressing. And then I can just have that kind of chilling off to the side, so when we're ready to put that together, it's all good to go. Okay. And that's just one kind of big green onion. It's when I make the dressing, and much to Mrs. Hueso's dismay, it's not quite the same every time. I have kind of a general plan that I go with, but like if I, hey, I've got some parsley, I'll throw that in. Maybe I'll throw in a green onion. Actually, you know what? I'm thinking today I might throw in a clove of garlic. And I'll just leave the garlic out because I'm going to, after this is done chopping up, I got to chop up garlic for the taco meat. So, there we go. Okay, so that's that. Let's give this a blitz. There we go. And that is looking great. That is what I wanted. So that will go in here. That is good. Now I'm going to go give this a quick rinse. Alright, that is now rinsed off, and I will put it aside for the moment so in that way we can move on with the pico, but we will use it in a little bit. Since these little tomatoes are kind of in season, this is what I am going to be using for the pico today. And this I will take my time and kind of cut up by hand, just because it's a better texture. I mean, I in the past I would make pico in the food processor, no problem. Just, pulse it and kind of make it that way. But you know what? Cutting it by hand is not only totally acceptable, but and sometimes it's better just because you get a better texture and more consistent at the very least. Mrs. Hueso tends to prefer it to be heavier on the tomato side, so I am going to cut up the tomatoes first, then kind of gauge what we got going on before adding the onion. So all I'm doing, honestly, is I'm just, since these are kind of longer, down the center and then into smaller pieces. That one looks like it was a touch older. And I put all the seeds and everything in there just because I like them. I think it was Jose Andres. He's a famous chef that was initially from Spain, but he set up shop in the DC area. He was a kind of a acolyte, I guess you could call, of Ferran Adria, the father of molecular gastronomy. And he loved what he would call the caviar, the the seeds with their little bit of jelly, and that was one of his. That was just one of his favorite things, and so he, got on people for, like, oh no, the seeds are bad. It's like, nah, man, that's like, he would actually de-seed tomatoes, and he would use the tomatoes for something else, but he would serve the tomato caviar, as he called it, kind of like a sushi. How you would order like salmon eggs or flying fish roe or something like that. He would serve it that way, which was pretty cool. So, but thankfully, I mean, this goes pretty quickly. Doesn't take too long. But it's one of those things that, like I said, I like to make this first, so then that way it's had a chance to kind of marinate for the longest amount of time. And the meat's gonna take a little bit of time too. It's not your standard, hey, let's put ground, insert name of protein here, and just kind of mix it up that way. I do take an additional step that actually makes it take a bit longer, but I will explain all of that once we get there. And after we finish this, we'll mix up the taco seasoning, because we're going to use it. This taco seasoning has no salt in it. I've talked about it before, but all of the seasoning blends that I make are saltless, and the reason for that is because the amount of salt that anything requires, it varies. Some things like a lot of salt, other things just a little bit of salt will do. But when it comes to kind of the rest of the seasoning, it's fairly static, the amount that it takes. And so this way I can get all of the other flavor that I want and only the salt that's actually necessary. Okay, now we've got this and it's looking real good. So given that amount of tomato, I'm thinking let's do half of this red onion and kind of evaluate where we're at that point. Okay. Let's see. Taking off the peel. Now, conventional teaching when it comes to knife skills and cutting an onion, what you'll see most people do, I should say, no jalapenos. And I'll get to that in just a moment. What most people will teach, and you'll see a lot of TV chefs and YouTube hosts and stuff do this, they'll say, okay, you're going to want to cut the onion this way a couple of times and then come in that way before doing a chop. So it's basically 3 different operations. You can do that. However, I have taken to doing it a little bit differently. So what I'll do is I'll actually take off that root end and lay it down nice and flat, and then it's like, okay, well, that's about how big I want the pieces to be. And so now I've got all these kind of long slices. I'll tip the long slices up on their end, and then instead of just going straight across like that, I'll actually go sort of in a radial pattern. So now I've got all these little wedges, but the pieces tend to be a bit more uniform in that respect. There was a forget where I saw it. I think it was on YouTube or something. And it was like, might have been like part of the You're Doing It Wrong series or something like that. I don't recall exactly where. But the chef that was talking, he was saying what you should do is actually pull all the layers apart into like, 2 or 3 each, and then cut them into strips before coming back and doing a dice in order to get it to be more perfect. And if this were a restaurant, then yeah, I would say absolutely, sure, why not? But the way that I did it kind of achieves the exact same thing without that kind of additional step of pulling it apart and dealing with that. Because for me, that just, I don't know, seemed like a lot of wasted effort. Okay, we got a spoon here. Back to Lumpy Pickle's question about putting the jalapenos in. No, I'm not. And the reason is because, like the salt, when it comes to heat, I aim for like a mild sort of base, because I can always add more heat to it and I can't take it away. And with the way that the jalapeno situation is up here, like all those jalapeno poppers that we made for that party, what was that, 2 weeks ago or something, super mild. However, I have periodically had one pop up that was very spicy. And so because, at least up here, there's not a whole lot of consistency to how spicy things are, I just, to be on the safe side, I leave it out. And then later, when I'm assembling everything, I can put in as much hot sauce as I want, which is what I usually end up doing. Okay, we got the bases of the pico de gallo here. I'm going to add a little bit of the salt, and I just have it in the shaker, just for my sort of ease. And that was maybe, I don't know, quarter to maybe a half a teaspoon. I just trying to be really careful with it because it's super fine, and I don't want to over salt it, because if it's over salted, then forget it. But so far so good. And because that salt is as fine as it is, the moment it hits like those tomatoes, it's really getting them to start to release the tomato juices and everything. And I haven't even added the lime juice yet. So that is ready to go. And you know what? I will probably just use that other half into the ground beef. I was going to use a different onion, but I'll just use that one. I've got a couple of limes over here, and we will juice those and put them in. Okay. So a little, this is, call it apocryphal, call it, I don't know. When it comes to choosing limes, I have always had the best luck picking limes that have had a really smooth skin. And then if you give them a little bit of a squeeze and they have a bit of give to them. If it's rock hard, put it back. If it's really bumpy, it's going to have a really thick skin to it and probably not going to be super juicy. It's probably going to be pretty dry on the inside. But if you can grab the ones that have a really smooth skin and have a bit of give to them when you go to squeeze them at the store, those would be the ones that I would grab. So, little pro tip there for you. And this is just a reamer. Whoop. This is just a reamer that I have had for, I don't even know how long. I probably bought it not that long after we were married, which will be 15 years this year. So, as it usually happens, any bit of moisture on there and you lose grip. All right. Thankfully, the limes, at least the ones that we've been getting, don't seem to have any seeds or anything in them. So I will also just put the all the little membrane bits in there too. Yeah, slippery when wet, exactly. Suddenly it's turned into a Bon Jovi album. Okay. Okay. And then that all goes in there. I'll put that in there too. And that absolutely has to be rinsed ASAP, because if citrus like dries on there, it sucks cleaning. Okay. Seems like we've got a good bit of juice going here, which is what we want. All right, let's give this a taste and see where we're at. Okay. It's got a nice acidic punch. Definitely not... I don't taste salt, which tells me that that's just right. Trolls? Who said anything about trolls? Only if they're the kind that hang out underneath a bridge demanding some kind of, you know, toll in order to cross. Okay. Rinse this off real quick. Okay. That is it for that. I'm going to move these off the screen just for the time being, since we're not to the step where we're going to start working on the meat. Now we're at the step where we are going to mix up the taco seasoning. Alright, so I got a big bowl here because that's just... If I think a small bowl is the only, you know, the size that I need, I just grab the next size up, just to keep it simple. I keep the taco seasoning in this jar, and as you can see, it's empty, and it's just a wide mouth ball jar, and so I've got my wide mouth funnel that I'll stick into it for when we're ready to go with it. In terms of like everyday use, I have this shaker bottle that's got a pop-up thing on it with 5 big holes in it, and this is what I use to actually apply the taco seasoning. There's a little bit of it left over, so I just mix in the old batch with the new batch, and so we'll just leave that in there. Now, as for the actual recipe, it's kind of a super secret thing, and I don't really like to talk about it too much, but anyways, play along, and we should be good to go. So, the recipes for stuff like this, I write in a form that goes by parts, just so then that way it's really easy to make however much or as little as you want, instead of like, oh, a tablespoon of this, a teaspoon of that. It's all in parts, so then that way you only need one measure, and then however many of that measure that you need. So in this particular circumstance, I'm using this little measuring cup, whatever volume it is, it doesn't matter. Just that this is what I'm using for my part. This is a jar of a chili powder blend that is in fact a recipe that I am not quite ready to release because I'm not. I don't feel like it's hit its final form yet. If you have a chili powder blend that you like, feel free to use that. Just try to keep an eye out to see if salt is the first ingredient on there. Most chili powder blends that are out there, salt tends to be the first ingredient. But like I've said, I have seen a couple of saltless ones out there. That's what I would try to use. But if what you got is like, say, Gebhardt's, which is a classic chili powder blend from Texas, use that. Use what you got. This happens to be what I got. So I'm going to put 6 of these in here. And I'm not terribly concerned about total exactness. And the chili powder blends should be, you know, usually some kind of dried chili, obviously. But then it'll have things like cumin and some other stuff. Let's see, that's 3, 4, 5.5. And yeah, okay. All right. That is the wrong lid. There we go. It's actually, this lid was labeled. So, okay. Now that we've got that going, let's see, what is next? We need cumin, which I happen to have a large baggie of it. Put a couple of those in. Okay. Try to squeeze out as much air as possible on this, just to kind of help keep it a little bit fresher for a little bit longer. Alright, let's see. Granulated onion. For blends like this, I tend to prefer granulated spices as opposed to powdered, but if you have powdered and not granulated, just use it. It'll work just fine. Alright, so 1 and 2 of that. Two of this. Sweet paprika. If you happen to have smoked paprika, that will also work just fine. I'm using just regular paprika here. In this particular circumstance, it's there for a little bit of flavor, but it's also really kind of there for that bright red color that we want. This is just paprika that I picked up at the bulk bins. Although they're really bulk jars at the market that I go to. Okay, and I think we are at the point now where we need some Mexican oregano. Not your, the typical oregano, your Greek oregano or your Italian oregano. That will not work in this particular application. We want Mexican oregano. And since I have it in leaf form, I'm going to grind up what I need. I have a container here specifically for ground oregano. So I'll just dump that into here before measuring out what I need. So then that way we don't go too crazy with it. All right. Yeah, and this coffee grinder / spice grinder, all I use it for is spices. So if you're somebody who likes to brew your own coffee and grind up your own coffee beans, do not use your coffee grinder for this purpose. Just trust me when I say that. All right, here we go. And that's looking pretty good. That's what I want. There we go. Okay. And we should be pretty close. Yeah, okay. So we got some left over, but that's okay because I'll end up using it. And then lastly, black pepper. I have found that when it comes to grinding up like whole peppercorns, if what I need is like say 1 of that measure, and of course some peppercorns decided to go running everywhere, because that's how it goes with peppercorns. About 1.5 seems to do the trick after you grind it down, because all the empty space and everything in between them, that seems to work. Okay, nice. A little bit left over, but that's all right. Put it in. Okay. So that is now done. Let's get that locked on. This can go back up. Now, if you want a little bit of heat to this, now would be the time to add, like, say, some cayenne pepper, which would be really good. I happen to have some chipotle meko powder here, so I'm going to add just a little bit, because I don't want it to overpower, because chipotle, especially chipotle meko powder, can be really strong. If you're wondering, well, what's the difference between just regular chipotle powder versus chipotle meko powder? So, a chipotle pepper is a jalapeno that has been smoked and then dried out, ground up, and turned into chipotle powder. Chipotle meko is made from jalapenos that have had a chance to fully ripen. So normally, like when you buy jalapenos at the market, you know how they're generally green. Jalapenos, when they're completely ripe, are actually red, and so that is what they make chipotle meko powder out of, is fully ripened jalapenos that they then smoke. And so it does in fact have a different flavor to it. And if you were to taste them side by side, you would absolutely notice the difference. But then at this point, all I'm doing is just mixing it up. See, and this is why I'm glad I grabbed a bigger bowl. Because now I got plenty of room to mix it up, and I don't have to worry about having to be really dainty about it. And this will easily keep, well, the rule of thumb is generally when it comes to dry spices like this, about 6 months for maximum flavor and everything. But if you end up keeping it for longer, it's going to be fine. It's not going to be quite as potent, but it will it's still definitely usable. Okay, so there is that. Now I'm going to grab a spoon for this. So then that way I can load this jar up. Hey, welcome, Yawitch, People Cow. What's going on? Hey, it's Terrible Hime. What is going on, Terrible Hime? Did it give you the shout out? I don't remember. Okay, thank you, Lumpy Pickle, for doing that. So Terrible Hime, somebody that I met by way of Grant's chat, who does cooking streams and also does workouts. Also cosplays and is into anime. So she's cool. I dig her. And so welcome. Funny thing, I was actually thinking about you a little bit earlier today because there was an anime that came out a few years ago. I'm not sure if you saw it. It's called, what was it? Yowamushi Pedal? Anyway, it's about a high school bicycle racing team. And so not certain if you've seen it, but I tend to like kind of some of the weirder shows sometimes. Anyways, the main character is a total otaku, and his favorite show is this show called Love Hime, and he sings it as he rides his bike. And there is a scene in it where he's riding along on his bike and he's just singing, and the chorus of the song is Hime, 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 Hime. And so anyways, when I saw you, that's what I thought, because I thought that was just kind of funny and you'd probably appreciate it. Yeah, I did steal your menu idea. So ! menu will tell you what we're making today. And I'm making taco salad. Right now I'm finishing up my saltless taco seasoning blend. And yeah, just Google Yowamushi Pedal, or actually look it up on YouTube, and Love Hime. Yeah, it's about 3.5 minutes. You'll love it. So anyways, I'm loading up what I mixed here into my quart jar that I keep the bulk of the spice in. And then we're going to get to work on everything else. Did you just finish streaming, Terrible Hime? I'm assuming you were doing a workout? Got sufficient taco seasoning to last me for, well, a decent amount of time, and it's labeled so with a recipe label, so then that way I just always have it. And that goes right there. All right. Let's get rid of this. Okay. Well, I think we are back getting to work on the meat. Okay, got our onion from earlier, so I'll just finish peeling that since we're going to end up using it. But, so for the protein today for the taco meat, I'm using ground beef. The beef that I grabbed is an 85% blend. However, if you wanted to use like a 90 whatever, feel free to. You want to use ground pork, have at it. If you're watching your macros, ground turkey will also work, as will like ground chicken. And then the technique that I'm going to be using in a little bit will kind of help with some of that, especially when you're, trying to brown up like ground turkey or chicken. It tends to dry out quite a bit. So I will show you my heretical way of making it. Just bear with me and have a little faith, and yeah, it's gonna be good. This is a technique that I've been using for a long time, and so I'm very happy that I get to share it with some people now. So let me bust out my burner and my pan here, and let's see, what else do I need? I'm going to throw an Anaheim chili in. These don't really have a whole lot of heat to them, but they got a delicious flavor. When I make my taco meat, I tend to throw in, like an Anaheim chili, some onion, and then a fair amount of garlic. So now we will bust out our mini prep real quick, because we need some garlic. And I'm kind of thinking that looks good, because we love the garlic here. I would not make a Korean Buddhist monk very well. They don't eat things like garlic, as well as meat, generally speaking. But a really fascinating diet, and they make some pretty amazing food. So, all right, let me just take the ends off of these real quick. Yeah, what's funny is my wife was talking about macros when it comes to watching what you eat. She was tracking her macros for quite a while, and I would a lot of times just end up making fun of her, because she was sitting there with the scale, weighing out, whatever was for dinner, wanting to know exactly what was in it. Because she was, watching it. And I was just kind of being a jerk about it. But, Hail Hydrate. Okay. But, it got me thinking, watching Grant working out, and also watching, like, Terrible Hime work out, that if I could integrate some sort of macro calculator into whatever it is that I'm making, that it would be really helpful for those who, are trying to watch what they eat, to make sure that they're getting the proper proportions of things like protein versus carbs versus everything else, and also try to offer up as many alternatives as possible. For my taco meat, the only fat is the fat in the ground beef. That's it. That's the only fat. I'm not adding any fat to it. That is just what that is. And if you want to drain it off, or if you're, like I said, if you're using like a lean turkey or something like that, then even less to kind of worry about. But I'm just kind of, thinking about how I can help as many people as I can and try to offer alternatives when possible. So let's get this garlic chopped up real quick. This I will turn to 11, because there's an actual setting, I don't know if it's visible, for 11. All right. I mean, chopping garlic isn't terribly difficult, but I had this thing out anyway, so I might as well. All right, so that can go away. Okay. Let's get the ground beef out, because we're kind of at a stage. Okay. In our packet of ground or minced beef, depending on what part of the world you're in, I have a little over a pound, probably pretty close to about 500 grams of that 85% ground beef. So So I'm going to put this in my cold pan first and foremost. Let's see. Oh, good, that is nice and visible. So I'm going to kind of mush it out a little bit. Normally, you know, whenever anybody around the world is browning ground beef, they're usually doing it over the heat. But I kind of want to get this mushed out first. And you'll see why in just a minute. Okay. Alright, that's looking like we're at about a specific height. Okay, so I've not seasoned it. I've not added anything else to it. It's literally just the ground beef that's in there. Here comes the heresy. Plain water. Okay, so that it's about 2.5 cups of just plain water. Okay, not turn the heat on yet. It's just the water and the beef. Okay, and you're probably thinking to yourself, wait a minute, we're making taco meat here. Taco meat is brown. Why on earth is he adding water? Is he boiling his meat? What is going on here? There's madness to my method. So now that the water is in there, I'm going to bust up the meat even more so. And in fact, if you'll notice, I'm not sure if you can really see it, you'll see that the ground beef is actually breaking up even more so. Okay? So what putting the water in there does is actually a couple of things. One, it's providing a suspension, so then that way when I'm going to kind of break it up, it breaks up into a finer consistency, okay? Because one of the things that's always bugged me about just straight up ground meat is that in the browning process, you end up with like some little pieces and some bigger clumps, and it tends to have this kind of rubbery sort of consistency, okay? And that's not what I want. I don't want that. I want a fine consistency. And by cooking this slowly, what it will also do is help render out the fat that's in there. And it will give the ground beef here a really soft and pillowy texture in the end. Mrs. Weso can attest to the fact that the taco meat before versus the taco meat after I started doing this taco meat is way better because it has a significantly better mouthfeel to it. And it is an absolute game changer, in my opinion. There are some recipes that you'll see out there that will say, hey, you know what, if you just want a finer consistency, you know, cook it up like you normally would, throw it in a food processor. But I don't really want to dirty yet another piece of kitchen equipment. This is going to take longer than normal taco meat would. However, the more time that it takes actually balances out with just how much better it is in totality. So I'm going to go grab my spoon rest real quick. Because now this has had raw meat and water on it, and I don't want to just set it on the counter. So I'm going to turn this on now. And I'm going to turn it down to kind of about a medium-ish kind of heat. Okay? I've added no salt. I've added no seasonings. I've added nothing yet. Now I'm going to add in the garlic, the onion, and that Anaheim chili. We're going to throw it in there with the water, and we're going to let it cook. So all of this is going to not only soften up, but it's also going to help flavor everything. And then towards the end, that is when we're going to hit it with all the dry seasonings, including the salt. Because we'll actually be able to taste it and adjust as necessary. The other reason why I don't salt right now is when you hit protein with the salt, like you saw with the tomatoes when I made the pico, it draws out the moisture that's in there. I don't want to do that just yet. I want this to chill and do its thing and just cook slowly. And then I'll salt it at the end with that that kombu salt from earlier, okay? So this is on, yeah, kind of a medium-ish heat. I don't want it to be like full bore, like super high, like rolling boil. I want to keep it gentle. I want to keep it, you know, so it takes a little bit of time. Yes, the water is going to completely cook off. Okay, so we're not making a beef soup here. The water is going to totally evaporate off, and that's what's going to take time because it's going to go slowly. That's why I'm not covering it. That's why I'm not doing anything to it other than heating it up and then stirring it up and kind of breaking it down more as needed. I mean, as you can see now, I mean, look at the consistency of that. That's already way finer than just straight up, you know, browning the beef. Okay. Like I've said, I mean, this is going to take longer to make, but now it's like, okay, now that this is going and this is going to take some time, I can finish dealing with the lettuce. I can shred the cheese. I can do what I gotta, you know, what I have to do for everything else. We can make the dressing because this is going to take a little while. So, all right, let's put that garlic in there because we love garlic here. And then usually when it comes time to actually eat, we just assemble our own at that point. So Mrs. Hueso can put together however much she's feeling like, and then I usually kind of load up. But you'll see when we go to actually assemble everything. Okay, let's go rinse that real quick. Okay. All this rinsing is just going to make my life that much easier when I have to go load the dishwasher later. So, all right. I'm going to cut up the onion now and toss it in. And I'm going to basically cut it in the same fashion that I did for the pico. The only difference being instead of like separating the two piles, because I really kind of wanted to show what I was doing there. Most of the time when I do it, although now some of these are just being really unruly, so forget you guys. I usually just kind of come in from the side and just work my way around. And then chop that up. The nice thing about this technique with the ground beef is it's really kind of applicable to anything that requires ground meat of any kind. Doesn't matter, you know, what the application is. Like, actually, you know what would be another fantastic application for this kind of ground meat would be shepherd's or cottage pie. So then that way you get that kind of maximum kind of mouthfeel. 2.5 cups of water. Okay, so there isn't a set ratio of meat to water, okay? The reason why I flattened it out in this nice wide pan was because I wanted to see how high it came up, and I wanted to add just enough water to kind of cover it, okay? Does that make sense? So if I was doing this in something really narrow, I would still need more water, but by having it in a really narrow, like my casserole or something like that, which is tall and kind of, you know, about that big around, it's going to take longer for the water to evaporate off. But by having this increased surface area, it'll actually evaporate quicker. Okay? Yeah, so far it's, you know, it smells like meat water at the moment. The Pico's in a sealed container, so I can't really smell on that at the moment. But it will definitely improve in not a heck of a lot of time. So I'm just going to crank the heat real quick just to kind of get it up to the simmer, and then I'll turn it back down. In the meantime, I'll chop up that Anaheim pepper. And this, I'll slit down the side. I'm just removing seeds and ribs. Not because they're spicy or anything like that, but just because they're not all that great to eat. Let's rinse out the inside. Since our bodies can't digest the seeds anyway, it doesn't make any sense. Okay, and then that being the case, let's kind of take off that rib. Again, it's just doesn't add anything to it, and so I just remove the ribs from basically any capsicum family item. So think bell peppers, any kind of chili, they're all part of the capsicum family. And then I'm just wanting to dice this up, really, so. Okay. And since this is going to cook down anyways, again, I'm not super concerned about exactness with the cuts. Okay, so that is now at that simmer that we wanted. Okay. I was just thinking the other day, I need to bust out my copy of The Last Starfighter and watch it again. It's been a few years. Last Starfighter was one of my very favorite movies when I was a kid. Just out of curiosity, what was your favorite movie as a kid? Chat? Anybody who feels like answering? Good so far. All right. Taco seasoning is handy. Salt is handy. Okay, we are ready to put together the dressing. So I need that. I need that. I need this. Now I need to get the rest of the stuff. Braveheart, really? Interesting. Uh-oh. My thingy is throbbing. Is the is video still going, or are we frozen? Robin Hood, King of Thieves. That was a great one with Kevin Costner. I remember when that came out. King of Thieves or Prince of Thieves? Because I remember when Prince of Thieves came out. Yeah, I remember that coming out back when I was in, I think, in high school or something like that. Total Recall. Yeah, Total Recall was a total trip. Okay, let's see. What else do I need? I need this. That's already got all that stuff in there. Okay. Okie dokie. So I don't want to put that in there. So I'll grab it everywhere. Okay. My cilantro ranch dressing changes up depending on kind of what I'm feeling. Oh, forgot one last thing. But the basis of it is always going to be chopped up cilantro. And in this case, I put in parsley as well as a little bit of garlic and green onion. Just to add a whole lot of freshness and flavor to everything. I'm going to end up grating in some cotija cheese, which is completely and utterly optional. If you don't have it, if you don't like it, if you don't want to use it, you don't have to. I am a huge fan of cotija personally. I will actually, there's kind of what it looks like. It's a fresher Mexican cheese that tends to be really crumbly and slightly salty. And so I will use cotija sometimes on like pasta, for instance. And as opposed to like Parmesan, because I still kind of get the flavor, but this also tends to melt more than Parmesan. So your mileage may vary. I just like to add a little bit in there because, well, I like it. And probably putting in what I'm making right now, I would say probably about a tablespoon and a half, maybe 2 tablespoons at most. Yeah, absolutely. It is amazing on elote, which, funny thing you should mention that, Lumpy Pickle. Something popped up for me recently, and I'm like, oh, I should give that a try, was a Mexican street corn dip. So you take that elote and turn it into a dip, which I thought, oh, that could be really interesting. So I'm tempted to give it a shot and see whatever happens. Yeah, fantastic on fideos, whatever. Like, cotija is just awesome cheese. I love it. I have here a packet of a ranch dip mix, not a dressing mix, a dip mix, which tends to be a bit more concentrated. And I don't add a ton. Like this particular packet, I think I've used either 2 or 3 times so far, because all I honestly end up putting in is about a teaspoon, maybe a teaspoon and a half into what I'm making. In fact, I still have some left over, so I'm just going to hang on to it for next time. But it's super easy and it works for me. If you have a bottled ranch dressing that you're a fan of, you can absolutely use that. I would find one that's got a really good thick consistency to it, because by adding lime juice, or in this case the juice from the pico, it's going to thin it out. And I don't want a super watery dressing. Oh, Mrs. Hueso just walked in. Hey, baby. He'll hydrate. Yeah, so I don't want it to be super thin. So this is a point where you can substitute any number of things. Hey, babe.
Hi. I got cat hair.
Oh.
I'm covered with cat hair.
No, that's right. She works
I
at
heart
the...
you.
Heart you too. I'm using mayo for the base. I'm going to use about a cup or so. However, you could very easily split it or substitute it with, like, say, Greek yogurt. Or I wouldn't use all sour cream, but maybe sub part of the mayo with sour cream or Mexican crema. Just some potential options there for you. But in this case, we're probably going to use about a cup about a cup of the mayo. So then that way we've got good thick consistency, which is really kind of what we want for this. And I'll mix it up before adding in that juice just to kind of see where we're at in terms of consistency and everything. Oh, the probiotic for Jane came today.
I saw. Well, I think we should give it a beer or two.
Okay. Although I think you should look at the jar too. Jane, for whatever reason, has been itching more than normal recently. And after doing a bit of research, in theory, it's got something to do with kind of its gut health or something. And so we got a probiotic powder to add to his food to hopefully kind of help him with that. And also in theory, by giving it to Vera, kind of calm her down a little bit, because she tends to be a little bit excitable. So, hey, Cole Runnings, thanks for the bits. And let's see, who followed? Crimit, Yawich, Cole Runnings. Oh my goodness, I didn't realize Terrible He-Man rated with 68 people. That's awesome, thank you. Excellent. So, hi Jane. That's his normal resting spot, if you can see him. More often than not, when I'm in here cooking, that's where he hangs out. So, okay. Let us add in some of the pico juice. So I'm just going to do this over the strainer. Okay, that's a couple of tablespoons, it looks like. And it'll thin this out because I want it to be a pourable consistency. I don't necessarily want it to be a really watery, but I want to be able to at least pour. Actually, given how this is kind of looking, I think I'm going to add a little bit more to it.
Grant asked how was fostering dogs.
Oh, fostering. That is a great question. It's kind of a complicated question, too. It depends on a number of things. It depends on the group that you're hooked up with. Like, we fostered dogs, how long was that? Maybe a year or two?
Yeah.
Or something like that. We were fostering dogs for a while, and so we had, I forget how many in total that we ended up fostering. And every dog was different, and we had dogs already. So, you know, we had that environment, but what it also meant was that we had to go through a rather complex introduction to them. So we went down the street to a big park and almost started on the opposite end of the park and kind of didn't go straight at each other, but, you know, kind of parallel in order to introduce them. Because if you let the dogs go straight on, they tend to get like really defensive. And so that no work. We had some good experiences, well, actually some really good experiences fostering. One dog in particular was a little, he got into a couple of scuffles with Jane. Jane tends to be pretty chill, but if you challenge him, he will fight back. And he can be quite ferocious when he decides to fight back. So if you have dogs already, you just have to be aware of that. But if you don't have any dogs, then it's going to be way easier to introduce them. I know you've got at least a cat, from what I recall, Grant. So it really kind of, you kind of have to see how they get along. 2 cats, yeah, exactly. So it's going to depend. But if you're aware of a program, talk to them. They'll probably, I would imagine they're going to want to do a house visit, I would think. Yeah, they're going to want to do a house visit just to kind of see what kind of environment they're in, to make sure that the dogs are going to be safe. They're not going to be left outside the whole time. So, yeah, your mileage may vary, but we generally speaking had a really good experience with it. Yeah, so I'm all for fostering. Fostering is awesome. Okay, our dressing is looking good. It's nice and, well, let's do that. It's got that nice kind of pourable consistency. That's what I want. So that is ready to go. That is simmering away nicely. So we can put the mayo away, as well as the cheese. All right. The sieve is all blown out, so that will not have any stuff dried to it. That is good to go. I do not need the grater anymore, since, well, at least this grater. Okay, so at this point, now we're really just kind of waiting for this. Need to prep the lettuce. We need to grate the cheese. And we need to heat up the black beans as well as the corn. And this is going to probably take, let's see where we're at. I mean, it's gently kind of doing its thing, but I mean, poking away at it, the meat has got a very soft texture and consistency to it. But it's starting to smell real nice. So that's probably going to take another 15-20 minutes or so. So in the meantime, we're going to crack the cans because I'm just using canned corn and canned black beans. They work perfectly fine for this particular situation. Although when corn is in season, I like to roast it and then slice it off the cob and add that to the salad. Black beans from scratch, if you're in the mood to make them, go for it. But like I said, this is a quick, weeknight kind of thing. And so that's, in this case, that's why I'm using just the canned stuff. But I do dress up the beans a little bit. The corn, generally speaking, don't need to add anything to it. So, food is progressing quite well. Things are just cruising along nicely. Yeah, corn chowder. Yeah, when corn's in season and it's really nice and sweet, we'll make a corn chowder then, because that's when it'll be perfect. So let me get these going on the stove, because I can just put them over low heat. I'm literally just cracking cans and putting them in the little saucepans here. I'll usually add a little bit of water to the black beans, just so then that way they're submerged. Both of those are set over pretty low heat, just so then that way, by the time they're ready, it's, they've heated up slowly. So if you notice, my can opener has got a really long handle on it in comparison to like just the kind of screw types. I bought this specifically for opening up large number 10 cans, the kind of the big ones. And if you notice, I'm opening up those cans and it's just like zipping through it. It's really nice. I love this thing, yay verily.
Why is the meat simmering in water?
Oh, well, like I explained earlier, so the reason why it's simmering in water is for a couple of reasons. One, it more slowly renders out the fat that's in there. Two, it allows you to break it up even finer. And three, the result of simmering like this gives you a ground meat, beef, pork, turkey, chicken, whatever, a much finer and softer consistency. So, yeah, that's why it's simmering, and that's why we're just kind of letting it do its thing, and why it's not over a hard boil, and it's just kind of simmering away. And as you can see, I mean, it is evaporating, it is going down. Oh. Now you can see that it's actually, going down. Just making sure there's a good flame to it. I got another canister ready to go whenever that's ready. You know what? Let's go put the cilantro on the hands now. Lettuce greens. I have here some washed red leaf lettuce that we picked up at the market the other day. That's just kind of the outer one, but some really nice kind of big leaves. If you want to tear the leaves, go right ahead. I personally prefer to kind of slice them up, but before I slice them, depending on the size of the leaf, like this one, I would still kind of slice down the middle. If it's like one of the really big outer leaves, kind of like this, I'll usually cut out that center rib. And then when I got two pieces, and kind of like this. Just because the rib isn't necessarily... It's not that it's bad for you or anything, it's just I don't particularly care to chew on big, thick ribs like that. But when you get to like the inner leaves that are super small, I don't worry about those because they're way more tender than the outer ones. The outer ones tend to be way more tough. And honestly, you can use whatever you want. Red leaf looked good at the market, that's why I picked it up. You want to use romaine, you want to use iceberg, shoot, you can absolutely do cabbage. It's really just limited by what you're feeling. Today I happen to be feeling red leaf. I think part of the reason why I more often than not grab for the red versus like say green leaf or something is there's some additional vitamins in that red. Usually it's like an anthocyanin, which is something that you need and it's good for you. So I tend to, reach for them. And then I'm just kind of slicing it up. So in that way the pieces aren't super big. And it's already been washed, so. Now I've got salad greens. And if we don't eat all these tonight, that's okay. I'll just bag them up and save them for later and have them tomorrow. Use them as a filling, whatever. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. You out of here, Raptor Man? Oh, you're heading home from work. All right, man. You have yourself a good one. Thanks for stopping in today. All right. IKEA box grater. I don't even know if they make these anymore. I always slice from the block, and honestly for this, oh. Jane knows whenever the cheese comes out, he's just like, oh, something for me. So, alright, let's tribute for the dogs. Vera. Come here. Yeah, it did sound like she slipped. Come on. Good girl. There you go. Alright, excuse me, Jane. Thank you. What's up? Oh. Yeah, because he knows if he sits like a good boy, he's more likely to get yet another taste of the cheese. This is just a mild cheddar. Nothing terribly special. You could very easily do like a Monterey Jack or even, you know, like a low moisture mozzarella or something like that. Something just to, you know, get some cheese going on in there. Whatever you like. I usually shy away from sharp cheddar just because it generally is a little too strong for this kind of thing. I want to be able to enjoy the cheese and not be fatigued by, you know, how, like, oh wow, this is really powerful. You know what I mean? Good boy. Here, little girl. Good girl. Yeah. All right. She did not. Little girl's been a little nauseous recently. No. She hasn't thrown up at all. No, but I'm assuming that's why she hasn't been hungry, is because she's been a touch nauseous. I mean, she hasn't thrown up, but she hasn't really felt like herself or felt like eating. So we chalk it up to her visit from Aunt Flo. So okay, this is evaporating nicely. I'll just scoot this to the outside to kind of let that liquid in the center, right around where the heat's at, kind of do its thing a little bit more so. Excellent. So we got cheese, we got pico, we got the lettuce, coo, and there it is. Just a quick scrub to that grater, so then that way later when it goes into the dishwasher it can just go in. So let's move this off to the side here. Let's bring that more center stage. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, having a pet's a real responsibility. And if it's one of those things where if you are so busy that you're, gone all day, you just got to evaluate your life to see if it's something that you can devote the time necessary to. We love our dogs, and they've been a tremendous blessing in our lives. So, yeah, I've definitely fought it at first because I had never had dogs growing up. But once we got our first dog, Wash, it was like, okay. So, yeah, dogs are awesome now. Oh, we need chips. I used to get corn tortillas and fry them up, but it ended up being a lot more work. I just go with the straight up tortilla chip, whatever you like, and then we'll layer everything at the end. Funny you should say that, Lumpy. He actually died as a result of getting hit by a car. So not too far off. And it happened literally like a couple of days before Christmas. Yeah, that really sucked. Driver didn't even slow down. But,
No, in all fairness, the dog came out of nowhere.
well,
I mean, he shouldn't have been out. He got out and he darted in between the cars.
yeah. So,
Heard a fence.
that's really nice. Okay. Pico was excellent. Chips are... Okay. Tickled the throat there for a second. Pico's good. Chips are good. We got cheese. Now we're literally just waiting on the meat. I mean, like I said at the beginning, this is something that takes way more time than if you were to just kind of fry it up. But the results are so worth it. Hey babe, I was telling everybody earlier that the difference between the taco meat before and after I started adding the water to the pan was different. Would you concur with that statement? You do concur? Okay. She concurred. And it's definitely for the better. There we go. I do concur. Thank you for putting that in the chat. Okay, so since we're getting closer with that, let's go ahead and add in that taco seasoning we made earlier. For this amount of beef, I've not ever really measured how much I put in, but I tend to kind of put on a nice layer of it. So I would say it was probably about maybe 3 to 4 tablespoons. But since there's no salt in there, it's like I'm getting all that chili flavor and kind of everything else. And then we'll hit it with the salt. Then I hit him with the cuddly monkey. No.
Playtime's over.
Playtime's over. Okay. There we go.
It's a Japanese.
It's a Japanese peace lily.
You're in love with your rubber buds. It's a Japanese piece lily.
You don't ever switch off, do you? Okay. That is looking and smelling really good. Okay. So we've got the dry seasoning in there. I'm liking the color of it. So I feel like we're at a pretty good dry spice addition. Let's try it real quick. Exactly, AJ. Okay, the spice flavor is there, but it is bland. So let's add our salt now. Okay, I want to be careful here because this is potent stuff. I would say that was maybe a teaspoon. But I want to get that mixed in and tasted before I add more. If you can taste the salt, you've added way too much. But seasoning anything it comes down to experience and trying things and retrying it. Okay, let's add that salt mixed in. Let's try it again. Better, but we're not quite there.
The greater good. Shut it!
Okay. Okay. I'm happy with that second edition. Definitely made the flavors pop. But it's not salty at all. And yeah, I mean, I don't know if the camera's really picking up just kind of how soft this is. And see how it's kind of just like mushing down a bit? It's not mushy, but it is soft. Yeah. Well, that's why I was saying I think the next purchase that I make is going to be a cam link, so then that way I can hook up my phone and use it as a camera and have it on a small tripod down here for the food. Okay. So that is off now. And I feel like we are ready to assemble. Okay. Big plastic bowl. This is what I usually eat out of when I make taco salad. Should probably check the... Oh, yep, good. It's almost as if I've made taco salad like 100 times before. And let's see, one more slotted spoon. Oh, and I almost forgot. You forgot one very important thing. It's an avocado off of my parents' tree. It is of the variety Little Cotto, not Haas, which is the most... basically, if you were to buy avocados in the store, at least here in the U.S., generally speaking, at least if it's a white person store, it's going to be a Haas avocado. And Haas's... There's a reason why they are the commercial avocado variety, and it's because it's got a high seed to meat ratio, so it's a small seed and a whole lot of meat. The skin is really thick and it protects it in shipping, and it's incredibly pervasive, and so that's the variety that everybody grows commercially. If you go to like a Mexican market, you can usually also find Fuerte, which is a big avocado that has a really smooth kind of skin to it. It's definitely a different flavor, and it's not as creamy of a consistency. This Little Cotto is very creamy and really delicious, and we are huge fans of it. I will, but I wanted to kind of talk about that a little bit first. There are a ton of varieties of avocados out in the world. In fact, down in Brazil, there's actually a variety where the flesh is orange, as opposed to the green that we're really familiar with. So this is the interior of the Little Cotto. You'll notice that the seed's pretty big, but the avocados are also bigger usually. So for us, we'll each have a half kind of in our salads. And then when I usually, even though these are pretty thin skin, I'm really gentle with the knife. And I just kind of slice it till I can feel the tip running along the back edge of the skin. More often than not, the knife will go through because the skins on these are very thin. And then I'll just come across this way. Sometimes for fun, in fact, I'll do it right now just to kind of show you what I'm talking about. So even though, like I'm doing, my parallel lines here, the next set of lines that I do, I won't do at a 90-degree angle. I'll actually do them kind of like at a 30-degree. So I end up with all these little like diamond pieces, just to kind of mix it up. Okay. Avocado, ready. So let's assemble. However you put your taco salad together, please do it however you want. If you want to throw everything in the bowl, have at it. I have a little bit of a method when it comes to assembling it. Usually what I'll do is I'll lay down a little bit of a bed of chips kind of on the bottom. Not necessarily a ton, because really they're there mostly for like a crunch texture. Then I'll hit it with some of the cheese. So they're sitting on top of the chips. Then I'll hit it with the meat. So I've got this going on here. This is usually where I end up adding, if I'm having hot sauce, this is where I'll add it. And I have to go with the classic Tapatio. It's just put a couple of squirts in. 'Cause that's what I like. And Tapatio is super, super classic. And I love it. So I'm going to eat it. Okay. So there's kind of the team hot side. So now I'll hit it with a nice handful of lettuce. Usually I like to go a little heavy on the lettuce personally.
No bravado.
No bravado. Okay. I love bravado. The crimson one is usually what I would end up using for this. But Tapatio is what I usually associate with this, and so it's my go-to for this. For other things, I use bravado, but for this for me screams Tapatio. Having grown up in Southern California, I mean, it was in every taqueria everywhere kind of thing. So that's just what I do. Got my lettuce. So now I will go ahead and hit it with that avocado, which, because of the thin-skinned nature of this, I would not be surprised if... Oh, nope. I lucked out. None of the skin came with it. I just get all that yummy goodness out. Yeah, but if I flip it over, you can see like where the knife went through in a couple of spots.
That's all you see is the pan.
Oh, really? Yeah. You can see that's just, like I said, because it's really thin skin, and so I did it in my hand because I'm comfortable doing it that way. I would not recommend doing it if you are not comfortable. I would highly recommend using like a butter knife if the avocado is soft enough, and doing it on a cutting board for your safety. I did this only because, like I said, that's how I'm used to doing it, and I'm going slow enough that I'm not like, flying through there with it. So, anyways, all right. Hit it with a nice big amount of the pico. Actually, I don't think you can see any of that at the moment. Better. Because pico is delicious. And then let's go get corn and beans. So I love the corn and the beans and the salad. Honestly, I think it's just straight up delicious. And then last but not least, dressing. What?
Nothing?
Nope. Ranch dressing has not been added yet. So add it to kind of what you are comfortable. I tend to like, a little bit more just because I like it to kind of coat everything. Oh, hey, Ty's in the house. Welcome, welcome, Ty. We're making taco salad tonight. And actually, we just finished plating. So now I'm just running my fork through to kind of crunch up the chips that are down on the bottom. And then mixing it up. Yeah, a little earlier we mixed up the saltless taco spice blend. It's a super secret recipe. But we mixed that up. Oh, did it not? Thought somebody... Boop. And, yeah. If if anybody in the chat doesn't know Lords of the Trident, Lords of the Trident is an amazing power metal band out of Madison, Wisconsin. They just debuted this morning a brand new video off of their latest album. The song is called Acolyte, and it's an excellent song. I did post it to my personal Facebook page earlier today, and if you haven't checked it out, I highly recommend going and listening to it because it's an excellent song. Forbidden Spices, yeah. Something like straight out of Dune. And there's taco salad. Now, of course, we got to get a bit of everything in there. That is the stuff. Yes, Ty the Super Pogger. The man, the myth, the legend, the voice. Video producer. Graphics dude. Etc., etc. Oh, man. I am starving. And I am ready to just... No, I did have lunch. But that was 6 hours ago. So I am ready to go to town on this. But... no, I don't like it at all. Bleh. Yeah. So there we go, folks. We have made taco salad. We made all the fun stuff along with it. I'm really, really happy with that salt that I made. So I think I will probably be ready to unveil it officially. I'm guessing maybe next week. And we'll make some on stream. Because the stuff that's in it, you don't taste, but it definitely does kind of ratchet it up a little bit.
Salt on the steak?
Yes. I made a kind of a larger batch of it. And yeah. So it's got like a kombu in it for one. And yeah, that's pretty tasty stuff. But I don't want to talk too much about it now just because I want to actually demo it and show you guys and kind of talk about some of the science behind it, since the science is kind of important to the balance of everything. So, any questions, class, today? Let's see. Let's do that. And let's open that up. Just looking to see who else is on right now. Let's see. Oh! I did not realize Mr. Kingsley was on. Well, I guess we're just going to have to go raid Mr. Kingsley now, aren't we? Okay. Any protein other than beef? I make it with pork and it works great. Oh, you can do chicken, you can do turkey, and with this method, by having it with the water and simmering it that way, it's I would not use ground salmon. I would not use fish in this particular fashion. If you want to make like a fish taco salad, that I would either grill up, pan fry, flake up that way, and then mix it in. I wouldn't grind it up. Yeah, I would not recommend that. And then for like, you know, vegetarians or vegans, if there is a specific like ground meat alternative that you're a fan of, this particular method should work fantastically well with it. And the seasoning will, remain the same. So it should work out really nicely for you. To answer your question, AJ, about why no braids, the little ties that we got were not very elastic and they sucked. And so I need to get some additional like little rubber bands, and then we'll braid them back up again. So, but yes, salmon salad would be good. I don't know if I would necessarily use salmon in this particular application, only because salmon kind of has its own flavor. So I would go with something a little bit milder. So like your tilapia, some of your white fishes would work just fine. Shrimp would be fantastic. But for the seafood and that sort of thing, I would not grind it up for it. I would just do a saute and then add the taco seasoning, if that's what you wanted to do. So that would be my recommendation if that's what you want. So, okay, well, I think it's about time we go raid Mr. Kingsley, the man, the myth, the legend that wrote my jingle. So let me put in that command, or let's see, is that it? Yeah, let's do that. Come on, it's taking a minute. Okay, it looks like he's working on some music. So, okay, let's go raid Senor Kingsley. Thank you so much, everybody, for sticking around today. Thank you to anybody who came over from Terrible Hime and stuck around and hung out. You guys are always welcome here. Mi casa, su casa. And why is it not? It is being dumb. Oh, there we go. So, anyways, have a good one, folks. I'm going to put it on the ending screen so we can get a little bit of music before the raid. And we'll see you over there.
Hello, boys and ghouls. DK's making a snack today. What's it gonna be? What's it gonna be? DK's making a snack today. Shove it right into your mouth. DK's making a snack today. What's it gonna be? Is he making it for me? DK's making a snack today. It's time for tactical snacking with DK. Making a snack today. What's it gonna be? What's it gonna be? DK's making a snack today. Shove it right into your mouth. DK's making a snack today. What's it gonna be? Is he making it for me? DK's making a snack today. It's time for tactical snacking with DK. Making a snack today. What's it gonna be? What's it gonna be? DK's making a snack today. Shove it right into your mouth. DK's making a snack today. What's it gonna be? Is he making it for me?